Hey everybody, what's up? How's it going? My name is Juan. I am just one reader, and I am here with the next chapter of my series, Rereading Harry Potter as an Adult, in which you guessed correctly, I reread the Harry Potter series as an adult. So this episode will be featuring Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. This time around, I decided to read this particular edition, which is the beautiful American Deluxe edition, which I had not even opened. And I bought this when it came out like 1,050 years ago. Like literally, I don't even remember when or where I got this, but I know it was a long time ago. And it was a really cool experience because even though the story is, of course, the same, you know that I love, well, we all love a pretty cover, and I'm really into like the book design and all that. And this book has an interesting design. It comes in this kind of box which does have the title, and the spine is really really cool. It looks stunning on my shelf. But the actual book itself is this hardcover with a dust jacket, and the dust jacket is really cool because it has no title, no author, no text, nothing whatsoever, and I love that. I love that they decided to go with this sort of with this just with this depiction of this scene, which is a scene of, I think it's one of the first memories that Harry and Dumbledore see in the Pensieve. This one is, of course, the scene where this one is a man employed by the Ministry of Magic, and he's going to investigate what's happening in this hut, in this cottage in the village of Little Hangleton. So inside, if we remove the dust jacket, we have the book, which I'm just gonna hold up like this. It's a black hardback with purple writing on the spine. It's beautiful. And on the end papers, we have, you guessed, the actual traditional cover and back cover. This book, like every other deluxe American edition, also features a brand new illustration by Mary Grant-Pray, who is the American illustrator for Harry Potter. And this particular one includes this, I'm gonna put it closer, there you go, which is pretty much the second chapter in the book. This is, of course, Spinner's End, where Severus Snape lives, and these are Narcissa and Bellatrix and the little fox that gets killed right away. Now you might be thinking, why is this guy talking so much about the physical book instead of talking about the book and the content and analyzing it and the stuff that actually matters? I think it's because I'm partly avoiding talking about this book because I think it's one that during this reread I haven't really enjoyed as much as I thought I would, or as much as I remembered having enjoyed it in the past. This is a book that I have reread multiple times. I think I must have read it. I haven't read it as much as Goblet of Fire or Prisoner of Azkaban, but I definitely have reread this many times more than I have Deathly Hallows or Order of the Phoenix. I figured this book, I must have probably read it around 10 times, more or less, which is kind of medium for a Harry Potter book and for me. So 10 times prior to this reread is not that much, considering that I had reread Goblet of Fire approximately 27 times prior to my reread, and I still enjoyed it so much. Whereas this one sort of felt a little bit flat for me, and I don't really want to talk a lot about this book. Not because I didn't enjoy it, because of course reading Harry Potter is always enjoyable and it's always a great experience, even the bad parts or the poorly written parts or the not so great parts are really amazing to read. However, I felt upon this reread There were some issues for me, and I think it's not necessarily to do with the book, but it has a lot to do with the fact that I was rereading it. I feel like when I am rereading Harry Potter, at least the previous five books, the first five books in the series, I have been able to still get the magic of everything and still be dazzled by the writing and the dialogue and the characters and all of that. I felt like with Half Blood Prince, some of that rereading value was not there. I figured that has to do with the fact that this book is very plot driven in comparison to, let's say, book 4 and book 5, which, yes, are also very plot driven, but book 5 particularly has a lot more character development or use of language. I mean, those were things that I enjoyed about this book much more than the plot itself. Whereas with Half Blood Prince, I figure that if you take away the mysteries of the book, because okay, this book centers mostly around two mysteries, well, several mysteries. One of them is what's up with Draco Malfoy? What is he doing? What is he up to? What is he trying to do? This is something that Harry is obsessed with in this book, and that's pretty much one plot line. And that's something that once you know, after having read this book so many times, once you know what's happening, there's not a lot of reread value to those sections. Another thing is, of course, the whole part of Voldemort's past and the Horcruxes. And I will say, in the defense of this book, that those parts actually still were very interesting to read, even though I know Voldemort's complete biography by now. I still felt like they were very interesting and they were very well written. Those scenes between Dumbledore and Harry, I really enjoyed them. However, there's definitely an aspect to this book that I felt it was much more centered on finding things out than enjoying the rest of the world, which makes sense because this book is kind of very necessary, because Harry still needs to get a lot of information before he can face Voldemort and before he can start, destroying Horcruxes and whatnot. So I do get that this book needs to do that and it needs to go in that direction. But in this particular reread experience, I felt like having already known the answers to all the questions definitely made it a less enjoyable experience. However, I still love this book. I still was very upset with the ending, with Dumbledore's death, and the way that, the characters, particularly Hagrid, reacted to Dumbledore's death was devastating. I was almost crying, almost. You know that I have a heart of stone, and in this body of mine, there is no inkling of a human heart, so I never cry with books. But I was very touched, and I was very close to tears with this funeral scene. And what's up, poor Hagrid? Just because he's the tall guy, the giant, semi-giant guy, he's always in charge of picking dead bodies up, and it's the worst. I mean, in this book, he is the one that has to carry and move Dumbledore's body to his grave. And then in book 7, of course, there's this beautiful but hauntingly tragic scene where Hagrid has to pick up Harry's body. So those type of images are just really touching and really upsetting for me. So kudos, J.K. Rowling. You can break my heart. Overall, I gave this book 4 stars, which might feel a little bit ungenerous for me and kind of, I'm being an asshole here. But I'm not really rating the book because I know that this book will always be a 5-star for me because I still remember the first time I read it. I was obsessed with this book. It was the best thing that had ever happened to me by that point in my life. But upon this particular reread with my 25-year-old Juan, I'm just, I enjoyed it, but I still feel like books 4, 5 were better. at least upon rereading them. So I gave it 4 stars. I would love to know what you have to say about this book. Have you reread it and felt the same or found different things that maybe I didn't catch? I would love to hear in the comments down below. Thanks for watching.